And now it is my great pleasure to welcome in person a real live speaker, our lovely Reverend Bobby Kilgore. Yes, who will be talking to us about dealing with loss.
So when I picked my title for this talk, I had no idea what would happen this week. Not only in Texas, we had a shooting the other day in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And as you know, every morning you turn on your news, we have multiple shootings in Orlando and in Central Florida and all over the country. But when I chose my title of loss, it has more to deal with than just loss of life. When I worked as a chaplain for Vitas, I went to make an initial visit on a new patient. He was raised Jewish, was not practicing. Wife was raised Christian, was not practicing. They'd spent their entire lives together, working and living together, raising their children. All their hobbies were together. And when he passed, and I went to do a bereavement visit with her, and I still keep in touch with her today, she said, I think if I had a faith, it would be easier to handle this. And so I went home that day thinking about that. What's the difference between someone having a faith of any kind and someone not having a faith of any kind? And how do we handle loss? Now, having a spiritual practice or a faith adds meaning to our lives. And it gives us something to always to fall back on in times of trouble or crisis. I remember one time giving a talk about connecting to the sacred. And one of the gentlemen in the Cocoa congregation came up to me, Barbara. He's the only one that calls me by my name. I said, yes, Albert. Now, you know I'm an atheist. I said, yes, Albert. You know I'm a scientist. I said, yes, Albert. So how can I possibly connect to the sacred? Do you really want me to answer that? I asked. Yes. Okay. You might want to have a seat. I said, when you bought your condo, you bought it facing the Indian River, didn't you? Yes. I said, you built a dock out over the river, didn't you? Yes. And every morning you get your cup of coffee, you go out and you sit on the dock, you face east, and you watch the sunrise. Yes. And you watch the pelicans, the manatees, the porpoise. Yes. And you hear the waves lapping up against the shoreline. Yes. I said, now stop and think for a second about all of that. How does that make you feel? Tranquil, he said. That's your sacred. Anything that brings peace to your spirit, especially in times of trouble or distress, that is your sacred. Now, everyone suffers loss. And of course, when I first say loss, everybody automatically thinks of the death of a loved one, of a friend, of a family, a pet, who is family. What about loss of your favorite car? Loss of a job, having to move away from your friends, relocate, and loss of those relationships and physicality. There's many different types of loss that we deal with. But having a faith can be helpful, but sometimes loss can actually have us question our faith. Is what we believe real? What do I believe about the afterlife? Is there an afterlife? Is there a divine source? How do I relate to that divine source? What do I call that divine source? How am I in relationship with that divine source? People say, well, wait a minute, divine source. Don't you talk about God? Well, yeah, if that's what you want to call your divine source, that's fine. There are many different faiths in this world and many different definitions of divine source. And as a Unitarian Universalist minister, I honor all of those faiths. When I was a chaplain for Vitas Hospice, I went to visit this lady who'd already become unresponsive. Born and raised in Okinawa, Japan, where I had been stationed as a Marine. So her son is sitting here, I'm sitting here, we're looking at her, and we're talking about Okinawa and about her culture and what she was raised with. And he says, "Chaplain, would you do her service?" "Sure." Buddhist, right? Cinco Kai. Not a problem. Went home, called my friend Paul, who's a Zen Buddhist, who's now here. You all welcome to our Zen Buddhist guys down here, congregation down here. I called him up. I said, "I got to do a Zen Buddhist service." "Okay, let me call Jim." Called Jim. Jim sent me the service. And I told the son, I said, "I'm going to greet everyone in Japanese to honor her culture." I stood up, bowed. "Ohayou gozaimasu." Just good morning. "Ye koto kote karete arigato." Thank you for coming. And he said, when I did that, he literally could see his mother in the afterlife just with the biggest smile on her face. Now, a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, there's heaven and there's hell. Well, that's your belief. And that's fine. I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in heaven, but there is an afterlife, and I can speak to that. What do you mean you can speak to that? Well, my dad likes to knock on the furniture, let me know he's around the house, and I'm used to that. One day I had to change my taillight on my truck. It's a Toyota Tacoma. So I have to take 3 bolts out to pull the housing out. I laid the bolts in the bed of the truck on my carport, no wind. And the bolt closest to the tailgate rolled, dropped to the tailgate in the bumper. Yeah. And you guys know about my back. So I go and I sit down. I'm trying to find it. Behind my head. Tap the bumper, sweetie. Pops. Tap the bumper, sweetie. I tapped it, out came the bolt. "Oh, thanks, Dad." "You're welcome, sweets." Okay. And I have learned when I worked as a chaplain and also with my dad that we never cross by ourselves. Somebody always comes for us. This one gentleman, his wife had passed on service. And he goes, "Barbara, do you remember telling me that somebody always comes?" I'm like, "Yes." "She had 4 men in that corner. I was so jealous." I had to laugh. I said, "Well, you know, she had a life before she met you." So we question our faith sometimes, and we question whether or not there is an afterlife. And I'm here to tell you there is, whatever you want to call it, whatever. I truly believe whatever your faith is, that's what you find when you cross through the veil. What is familiar to you. So if you're Christian, you're going to find God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. You're going to find the angels. But the one thing everybody will find is all of your family, your friends, and your pets. People are like, "Pets?" I'm like, "Yep. My rat passed away. Dad came to me in my dream, goes, I've got him. I got all of them. They're all with me." I'm like, "Oh, Lord." Basset hounds, rabbits, and rats. That's going to be a menagerie when I get up there. But I'm here to tell you, whatever your faith is, trust it. Fall back on your faith in times of trouble, in times of distress, in times of joy, in times of peace. People are like, "What do you mean joy and peace?" I'm thankful every day when I can get up and I have another day to be on this earth and share my life with different people, whether it's going to Publix and running into strangers and smiling and making them smile, having a positive effect on people, coming here, seeing all my friends here in the congregation, and being able to speak to you. But I know this, that there will be a day that I will cross through that veil. My dad's going to come for me. Probably all my rats and dogs and stuff will come for me too. But they will come that day. But I hope and pray that when that comes that day, that people don't mourn the loss of me. They celebrate me. They celebrate my life. 23 years in the military. saving lives, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, serving my country. My life as a Unitarian Universalist minister, my life as a seminarian, doing my internship in the Vero Beach Church. All the lives that have intersected in my life, whether they be fleeting at a convenience store, at Publix, in traffic. How many of you, when you're sitting at red light, go, instead of doing that, look around you. Look at people in the other cars. Keep an eye on the light. But look at the other people in the automobiles. You might be surprised. They might turn to you and you smile and wave, and they'll smile and wave. You may have just made the difference in that person. You may have just made a difference. You don't know if they've had a loss in their life. I had a friend of mine one day go, I have people at work, and she works at a store, a grocery store, and she's the cashier. I have people that just take out their bad days on me. I'm like, what? But you don't know why they're having a bad day. You don't know what's led to that bad day. You don't know what their loss is in their life. Be gentle with them. Be kind to them. And when you experience loss of any kind, be gentle with yourselves. Be kind to yourselves, whatever that loss is. My favorite radio died. I really liked that radio, even though it was old, it worked well. I wrecked my favorite car. Oh, I love that car. I had so many wonderful memories of that car. Loss of a friend or family member. My chiropractor went to India this weekend. His cousin passed away. So I told him, I said, I send you kind wishes. I send you kindness and gentleness, wishes for good travel. And I said, and good reunion with your family members that are there. Remember that in all times of loss, there's also things to be celebrated. Thank you.